stuff around the apartment, looking for his secret stash of cigarettes and yelling at John. He and his father used to go for walks to Moore. The Woods has a place called Dirt on Baskerville, a chemical and biological weapons research center in Dartmoor. Cope with his trauma, so he dismisses him. But just then, the fact that Henry called it a hound instead of a dog spikes Sherlock's interest of tourists. The hound had become a local legend, and helped to grow the place. He sees the words liberty and inn, in relation to the night his father was killed. The two then talk to the tour guide, who tells them that he has seen the hound too. Since, the hound has been running around in Dartmoor killing people. The two then visited, so they have only about 20 minutes before they get caught. One of the do not find any useful information about the hound, before Mycroft's card causes. Turns out Franklin is a fan of Sherlock's work, and he knows Henry and knew that they more. Henry offers them some tea, and tells them of the words that he keeps. Three make their way to the place in the evening that day. As they walk, it looks like someone is trying to communicate in Morse code. John looks. That means, he goes back looking for Sherlock and Henry. The other two. Henry sees it too. Nervous, Henry comes running to Sherlock. Henry is frustrated by Sherlock's denial. He is sure that Sherlock saw. As John tells him about the Morse code, Sherlock interrupts him to tell him things. Sherlock reacts with anger, insisting that he is in a good mental way in the hills. He sets off to look for the source. Finally, he wakes up at night. Suddenly, he starts to hallucinate the night his father was killed. The outlight turns on and off. Henry gets his gun out. Just then there's John go on a date with Henry's therapist, Louise Mortimer. John ruins the mood when he exposes John as a professional investigator. Louis not slept in days because of his night terrors. Sherlock's directly runs it. Instead, he questions Henry why the creature is called hound. Realizes something. He suggests that the word hound is actually an acronym that's been sent to Dartmoor by his brother Mycroft. Meanwhile, John reveals he's vegetarian. The innkeeper admits that he briefly kept a wild dog on. There's little resemblance to the monstrous creature that Sherlock and Henry encountered. Sherlock calls his brother, who provides him with access to Baskerville again. He plans, and goes further in the labs than they did last time. Suddenly, to get out of the place, but his key card stops working. Suddenly, some animal might have broken out. Just then he hears a growl. Just then, Sherlock calls him. He frantically tells Sherlock to get out. John tries to explain to Sherlock that he saw the hound, but Sherlock and studies the sugar from earlier. Sherlock suspects that they have been. Believes that the sugar they put into the tea was drugged, because both Henry and he saw the hound. Hence, he hallucinated the hound in the lab. However, to call the Mind Palace. While meditating, he deduces that liberty and Sherlock finally realizes the truth. The Project Hound was established. However, the project was shut down because of what it did to the subjects. The entire project was abandoned, but someone has started it up again. Sherlock had picked up on his American dialect. Dr. Franklin was in discussion with Louise when suddenly he fires at her, hallucinating that she is the hound with him. Just then, John gets a call from Louise, who informs him of Henry. Sherlock and John reach there. Henry is inside the pit, trying to kill himself, who was wearing a gas mask with red-colored lenses and a sweater with the words hound in the pit. Lestrade is there too. The four start to panic. When it clears up, Henry looks at the hound and realizes that it is just an ordinary dog hound, dosing Henry each time he visited. With Henry unstable and that Franklin murdered his father, because his father had found him, continue testing the drug into the Baskerville minefield and steps on a mine, killing himself in the explosion, despite not having inhaled the gas from the moor. Sherlock tries to explain by the hound were actually just sound effects played in by Sherlock, as he attempted to obviously deduce the drug was in the sugar, which hits Sherlock's nerves. He implies dog put down. It was indeed his dog that the drugged Sherlock and the others had perceived.